Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. My name is Moshmi Beltingady. I'm with the Administration for Children and Families Office of Early Childhood Development, where I work primarily on tribal early childhood issues, and very excited to be with all of you today to launch our Tribal Early Learning Initiative opportunities. We're so pleased to see so many of you interested in this initiative and hope that you'll join us in our effort to support tribes to coordinate their early childhood services. Next slide. So we have quite a number of things that we want to cover today. We'll start with some opening remarks from our ACF leadership, then provide some background on the Tribal Early Learning Initiative. Then we'll hear from Barb Saber from the White Earth Nation, who was a TELI participant in the first round, and we'll get to hear more about her experiences and the benefits that they had in their community. Then we will share about our new Tribal Early Learning Initiative opportunity. We'll have a brainstorming activity to give you all an opportunity to do a little bit of visioning about what you'd like to see in your communities in the short term and long term. And then we'll have some time for questions and discussion and discuss next steps. Okay. So now I'm very pleased to introduce our ACF leadership in early childhood. We're joined by our Deputy Assistant Secretary for Early Childhood Development, Katie Ham, by Dr. Ruth Friedman, the Director of the Office of Child Care, and by Tala Hubin, the Acting Deputy Director for the Office of Head Start. And I will turn it over to Katie.
Thank you so much, Moshmi. It's great to be with you all today, and it's great to see so much interest in the TELI. We're excited to share with you today an important opportunity to support collaboration and early childhood systems building for tribes. We've listened to you over the last year, for the staff at ACF the last several years, on what tribes want and hope this effort will address. And it takes into consideration long-time feedback from tribes that you want more support and resources to coordinate your early childhood services in a way that promotes tribal sovereignty. And while states have been able to invest in early childhood systems building through programs like Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge and the Preschool Development Grants, these opportunities have not been available to tribes. We are hoping that this new Tribal Early Learning Initiative, or TELI, will be that opportunity. We also recognize the enormous challenges that tribal communities have faced during the COVID pandemic and hope that the new TELI will be an opportunity for tribes to rebuild from COVID and create even stronger supports for young children and their families in your communities. We're implementing this new TELI building on what we did during the Obama administration, which was a really successful demonstration that brought together Head Start, childcare, and home visiting programs using the tribal maternal, infant, and early childhood home visiting program funds. We really hope that the tribal home visiting programs will continue to play a role in TELI efforts, which will now be supported with the Tribal Child Care and Development Fund resources. So thank you again for taking time to learn more about the TELI and considering whether this might be a good fit for your community. We're looking forward to partnering with you and learning from you. And now I am pleased to introduce my colleague, Dr. Ruth Friedman, who directs the Office of Child Care.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Katie. I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm going to be brief so that we can move on to the experts and you can hear all about the opportunities with TELI. I do, like with Katie, want to start by acknowledging the toll that the COVID-19 pandemic has taken on tribal communities. I know many have suffered loss and that for many communities, life is still disrupted. The Child Care and Development Fund plays really a small part in supporting the well-being of children and families, yet CCDF has reach in more tribal communities than almost any other human services program. We have 265 tribal grantees representing over 530 federally recognized tribes. Our CCDF tribal lead agencies have been working hard to support childcare with the additional COVID relief funds, as well as the historic investment of CCDF funds to support system building and reach more families. And that this really reflects the importance of childcare in tribal communities. And what is really exciting here today is that we think TELI is a great opportunity to build on that work that you all have been doing in a sustainable way. From the perspective here in OCC, we think this will help tribes lessen the silos that may exist due to the very different federal funding streams that come from us. So TELI really provides an opportunity for childcare programs to rethink and implement a vision for early childhood in their communities that truly meets their needs. We hope this will make communities better able to serve their children and families and reach them where they are. I'm excited that tribal lead agencies are going to have this opportunity to use their CCDF funds in this way, and we here at OCC and ACF stand ready to help you however we can. And with that, I will turn over to Tala.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Friedman, and thank you, Katie and Mushmi, for having me. So Head Start has been a critical resource for children and families in tribal communities since the program started in 1965. Head Start strongly depends on partnerships in the community, but sometimes that has not included childcare, the Bureau of Indian Education, and home visiting partners. And there have been silos that have not worked for children and families that need these services the most. The Office of Head Start sees this new TELI as an opportunity for Head Start and early Head Start programs to partner with other early childhood programs in your communities, share resources and knowledge about engaging families and communities, implement high quality comprehensive services, incorporate native language and culture with partners, and support an overall stronger early childhood system that meets the needs of young AIAN children and families. OHS strongly encourages all Region 11 Head Start grant recipients to get involved in TELI efforts and continuously explore ways to collaborate across programs so that you can broaden the impact and maximize the benefit of funding to support early childhood development across your communities. We encourage you to reach out to the tribal CCDF programs in your community, as well as other partners, to explore the TELI opportunity and consider how you might work together. Thanks again for being with us today. It was a pleasure to be on this call. And now I will turn it back to Moshmi to share some more.
Thank you, Tala, and thank you, Katie and Ruth, for being with us today as well. Now I'm excited to be able to share some of the background about the Tribal Early Learning Initiative. So could you go to the next slide, please? So tribal early childhood programs that serve young children and their families, such as Head Start, Early Head Start, childcare, and home visiting, often have different funding sources with their own standards, regulations, and leadership structures. This has led to programs having conflicting policies, inconsistent quality and accountability, and different levels of investment. For example, a tribe's Head Start program may be very strong with lots of staff and resources, while the same tribe's early childcare program may be severely understaffed and lack needed materials to serve young children. The staff for these two programs may not even speak to each other, and as a result, they miss opportunities to work together that would lead to better outcomes for tribal children and families. In a well-aligned system, programs are more seamlessly integrated with collaborative planning and decision-making structures, action planning for coordination across services, and continued collaborative efforts to promote linkages and align activities. And that's where the Tribal Early Learning Initiative, or TELI, comes in. TELI is about helping tribal early childhood programs work together to create higher quality and improve child and family outcomes. Next slide. So to address the issues related to the lack of coordination of services in tribal communities, during the Obama administration about 10 years ago, we launched the Tribal Early Learning Initiative, which was a partnership between ACF and 8 American Indian tribes that had AIAN Head Start and Early Head Start, tribal CCDF, and tribal MICD programs. The TELI came about after a visit by our then Deputy Assistant Secretary for Early Childhood Development, Linda Smith, to a tribal community. She visited the Head Start program and the child care program and was really heartbroken to see the differences in resources and quality across the program, including the quality of the facilities, the availability of healthy food, and access to stimulating books and toys and spaces designed to support children's learning. She also saw opportunities for the tribe's home visiting program to partner with Head Start and Child Care to improve quality across the board. She came back to ACF staff across the Office of Head Start, Office of Child Care, and Tribal Home Visiting and asked us what could be done, and we came up with the idea for the TELI. Tribes were given small incentive grants and technical assistance supports to partner across their child care, Head Start, and home visiting programs and develop and implement their plans. Grants between $30,000 and $100,000, so really small supplements to tribal make-need grants. TA provided collaboratively across home visiting, Head Start, and child care federal staff and TA providers, and that included resources to support coordination, regular calls with federal program specialists from all 3 programs, and joint site visits. And the goals of the TELI were to support tribes to coordinate tribal early learning and development programs, create and support seamless, high-quality early childhood systems, raise the quality of services to children and families across the prenatal to kindergarten entry continuum, and identify and break down barriers to collaboration and systems improvement. Next slide. So we really had a lot of success with the TELI. We saw really deeper relationships and support and respect across partners. We saw tribes set a solid foundation for expanding culturally grounded early childhood services and systems in the community, improved coordination of services to families with young children, and real progress towards breaking down barriers to collaboration and working toward a unified vision for all children and families. And some of the grantee activities that we saw included creating a single tribal early learning program enrollment form to facilitate the enrollment process for families so they didn't have to sign up for multiple programs and share information multiple times. Selecting common assessment tools to more easily compare data across programs and allow families not to have to fill out the same assessment forms. Holding joint professional development training for early childhood teachers and home visitors so that everyone is learning the same thing. Investing in data systems to allow for better coordination and sharing of relevant child and family data across programs, and allocating expenditures across grants to allow for shared services. Next slide. So these are just a couple of quotes to really emphasize the impact that TELI had on the communities that participated. In the first quote, a participant from the Pueblo of San Felipe talks about how communication and collaboration has allowed them to really work towards one common goal. And our partners in the Intertribal Council of Michigan really talked about how tribal leaders and decision makers are really seeing early childhood as a priority, and how that wasn't the case earlier. And because of silos, there were a lot of opportunities missed, and now there's a lot more attention to tribal early childhood. And since the last cohort of TELI ended in 2017, tribes have continued to express desire for new TELI opportunities, including at tribal consultations and as part of the ACF Tribal Early Childhood Working Group, which was a group of tribal leaders, program administrators, and federal staff that met at the request of Congress in 2020. And we're really excited to be sharing later in today's webinar about a new opportunity to support TELI efforts at the tribal level, and hope that many of you will be interested in participating. And now I'm going to turn it over to Eva Carter to lead us in a couple polls.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see all these names in the chat room. I love that part. I'm getting to see all of the communities that you represent and who all's on here. So thank you for adding that to the chat room. And thanks, Moshami. I will be working as the coordinator for the TELI with Moshami and a lot of other federal partners like you're seeing today. And I think one of the most important things about TELI is it's not the tribal child care initiative or the tribal Head Start or the tribal McVie or whatever. It is really about the whole early learning community. And you're seeing those kind of partners come together at the federal level between Head Start childcare and home visiting and many others. So I think there's so much commitment to this, and it's going to be great to see your commitment at the local level. So we have a poll that if we can put the poll on, there you go. And we want to know what kind of program you represent. So you can see we have this whole list of AIAN, Head Start, Early Head Start, Tribal Childcare, all of these different programs. And if you would go in and just let us know by checking the box on which one of these programs you represent. It may be more than one, and that's okay too. So if you would just take a minute and do that, we will wait and see what Diana gives us for results. All right, looks like we have a lot of AIN folks and CCDF folks, some tribal home visitors and early childhood, Department of Ed, well represented. So I wish we had a place you could type in other. We may have to figure that out later, but thank you for letting us know that. So if we can go to the next poll, this one, if we can go to the next poll, Diana, the next slide. This one asks about who you currently partner with. So some of you may be brand new to partnering, have never really been involved with a partnership in your community. Some of you are may be able to check a lot of these, but give us an idea of who you are currently partnering with in your community. I think we added nutrition and health to this one, Bureau of Indian Education. Again, there'll be some that we don't have up there, but we'll be interested to see who all we partner with. So we'll see what the results are when Diana, there we go. So you're currently partnering with, again, kind of the same representation, but a lot more in health and Indian education, tribally operated childhood programs, not so much McVie, but I think there's a reason for that because Tribal McVie only has 24, is that right, Moshimi? 24 grantees as opposed to so many grantees in these other programs. So that's understandable, but it looks like every one of those boxes would check to some level or another. So our final poll, if we can go to the next slide, is about more of the how do we partner? You know, a lot of folks have been partnering for years and years and years without it being a big formal kind of deal. You know, I have some extra diapers. Do you need diapers? Or we're having a training. Do you want to come? What we're trying to get out here is to kind of figure out where folks are of how deep you've gone into your partnerships. So are your partnerships just more informal? You just know each other well and just figure out how to share some of your services? Do you have an actual written, structured agreement in place? Or some of them are informal and some are formal. Or it could be, again, that you're brand new and you don't have them. So let's see where you are at your partnerships today. Okay, more informal. Okay, we have some written agreements, some are informal and don't have any. So this is a good description. I'm really excited that we have some folks on the line that don't have current partnerships so that you can see how this thing works and the benefits of it. And so thank you for completing those polls for us. It gives us some background and kind of helps us know where to go next. And so with the next slide, I turn it back over to Moshimi to introduce Barb, because now you'll see how it really works from a real lived experience.
Thank you, Eva. We're very excited to have Barb Saber join us. She's an enrolled member of the White Earth Band of Ojibwe and is the CEO of Indigenous Visioning. She has over 30 years of working within tribal, state, national, and federal levels through all kinds of work to advocate for tribal and early childhood issues that promote healthy child development for all children. And she has a lot of experience in program development, creating early childhood systems, and promoting collaborations within tribal communities. So Barb, welcome. I wanted to ask you, the White Earth Nation was part of the first cohort of TELI about 10 years ago. I can't really believe it's been that long. But what made you all want to participate back in the TELI back then? And do you want us to move to your slide immediately, or just let us know?
Yes, you can move to the slides. Okay. Well, Miigwech, and I'm happy to be here. So in response to Moshmi's question, what made us, I think that what interested us was that the three programs served the same families, served the same population, the same age groups. And so it just sort of made sense for us. And we, as the White Earth Child Care Program, we didn't intentionally, or didn't for some reason work with our public health, our nurses, our home visitors. And we shared a building with Head Start, but that necessarily didn't mean that we, had coordinated services. So when the TELI became available, we thought that would be a starting point for us to break down the silos. We looked at the three programs, and the slide that is up is just showing some of the services that the three programs were doing at the time. Next slide, please. So we were able to really understand each other. I think that's what the biggest thing was. We didn't really know what the other programs may be doing with the families, or their intake process, or the services available to them. So it really gave us an opportunity to meet on a regular basis, to understand the intake process, the forms used, and then, then to identify where we were duplicating requested information from families, from, a simple application to financial information, ASQs, tribal enrollment. So if you looked at what a family has to do in order to receive services from any of our programs, they have to fill out these required documents. And so for our three programs, they filled it out 3 times. And that's not saying they're not filling it out with other programs that they're also serving. So the families, that was a big burden on the families. And so we wanted to help minimize that. And of course, we also had to do a MOU and a confidential sharing agreement between the 3 programs. We also were able to create a list of families where maybe 1 or 2 or all 3 of our programs were serving. So it just made sense for us to really look at who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going, and how we're affecting families. Next slide, please. So during our discussion, some things became evident right away. And while there was a lot of other things that popped up, these are some of the top of our list. And it really helped us, see where the need is. And so our meetings were very busy. We made sure that we allowed plenty of time for our meetings in order to help really look at the programs. We invited other staff in from each of the programs to help us, identify and coordinate all these services. Next slide, please. So while TELI was working, we were able to, really coordinated efforts whenever we did our community events, when we did community screenings, when we did, just intake, and we were able to reduce some of the duplication. So there was a lot of good things happening as we initiated TELI for the White Earth Reservation. And it was really an eye-opening experience. And a lot of good things come out of that. Then the funding ended, but we continued to keep it going to some level. And one of the biggest benefits, I should say one of the second biggest benefits, because the families had the first benefit of coordinated services. But the second one was we were able to create the White Earth Coordinated Assessment, Resource, and Education. And We Care is what we called it. And that We Care came from TELI, from that coordinated effort. We realized that while the three programs, it was important for us three programs to come together for children 0 to 5, that there's more than 0 to 5 children in these families that we're serving. So the need to be to provide a holistic approach to serving families was greater. And so we created this. We took it to the other programs. We took it to the tribal council. And so it got bigger and better and included more programs. So the tribal council was in big support of this. They recognize that all their programs that they manage are serving the same family. So they wanted to break down the silos for families. And so we were supported all along to have this coordinated effort for multiple programs. So the tribal council felt so strongly about this that on November 5th, 2018, they passed a resolution requiring all tribal programs to participate in this effort. So if it wasn't for TELI, We Care would not have happened. And so then with We Care, we were able to bring in more of the programs and housing, education, healthcare, energy, employment. So it was really a coordinated effort. Next slide. So the benefits, again, I'm really excited. I was really honored to be asked to be part of this panel today because I've seen the benefits, I've experienced the benefits, and I just know that TELI is such a promising practice for Indian country, especially when we want to think of that holistic approach and a comprehensive early childhood system. Next slide. So I just, really wanted to emphasize, the tribes who are thinking about this to really think about dreaming big and think about your families and all the programs they're being served by and how you can help coordinate that. Some of our biggest successes, was in that breaking down of silos and helping families get services from multiple programs. So if they come to one door, they're actually coming to multiple doors. And so I just wanted to share that I wholeheartedly support TELI, and I'd love to talk to anybody who wants to talk more and take a deeper dive into it with me, I'm happy to share my experience. And yeah, so thank you.
Thanks, Barb. So you shared about the We Care system that you all developed. Do you think there were any other things that you would really highlight as big successes of your effort, where you saw the silos breaking down and experiences changing for children and families, or quality of programs improving?
Yes. Some of the top things that come to mind is the ASQs. So each of our programs, you know, we require our families to complete a ASQ for their children or their child. And so each program, for every few months, they're having to fill one out. Well, just imagine that same family having 3 programs. So they're filling it out triple, the triple times. And so we were able to, when we created that We Care database system, so if one program entered, did an ASQ, and then the second program was in there and they needed that ASQ, instead of having the family fill out another one, they were able to use the one that was in there placed by one of the partners. So it was things like that that really had an impact on families. And then we were able to look at, okay, so, from prenatal on up, where are the services, where are the gaps? And so that really helped us kind of map out the whole tribal service area of programs and services and families.
What would you say were some challenges that you faced as a result of trying to partner in this way with across these silos that had been existing for so long?
I would say that for early childhood programs, it's a lot easier to coordinate. And so our challenge was trying to bring in the other bigger partners, such as housing, health, Indian Health Service, all the other programs that are in tribal communities, child protection. So trying to get help or reach out to those programs and get them involved, and so that they can have a referral service to our programs, so that they can provide their families that they serve in, with all these opportunities for them. And so that was the biggest challenge, is I think getting in these bigger other programs. But again, the tribal council seen the importance and where this could lead. And so that's why they mandated all programs and to eventually become a part of the We Care system.
What do you think were some of your lessons learned from the Tele experience?
I think lessons learned was that, it took us 3 directors to really sit down and roll our sleeves up and say, we're going to do this, and then of course talk to tribal leadership and get them on board. We're also pleased that we were able to do a better job of doing a community needs assessment. We all, a lot of programs do community needs assessments. And when you have one coordinated, comprehensive community needs assessment, it's more meaningful than you have 5 programs doing little, community needs assessments just for their programs. So that not only benefited the 3 programs, but it also benefited all the other programs. And they were happy to see those assessments responses. So, I mean, TELI became that glue. It kind of became the glue that really, more programs were able to come on, and more programs were able to see the highlights and the benefits of a coordinated effort. And I think that was the biggest lesson learned is how we can break down the silos, but we need to take the time to do it. Tribal communities have limited resources, so it only makes sense for us to coordinate our services, our funds whenever we can, and come together for these efforts like a community needs assessment.
So I know, Barb, in your community, you have been doing a lot of kind of collaboration and system building work over many years, like you've been trying to do this kind of work for a long time. What do you think was different about the Tele opportunity that made it possible for you to really partner in these ways?
I believe it would be the dedicated staff. So, and then tribal leadership support. When you do anything like this, it really, you have a partner. You're not in it alone. You're not trying to serve all the families alone. And that's almost impossible to do. So when you have partners that are serving, the same population and the age groups, it just makes sense. And so I remember seeing a picture of a family, and it was a state, but it was a family trying to get services, and it showed all the services on the bottom and the family on the top, and in between were these spaghetti lines, so of families trying to access those services. And so when you have a coordinated effort like this, that's going to help straighten those lines out and have one line to all these services for families. I mean, we really got to think of holistic approaches. You don't just serve the child, when you have other children in the whole household, when you have other parents or youth in the household, we try to help support them with their housing and health and education. So employment and training. So just having a coordinated effort like that just makes sense in today's world.
So we do have a question that popped up in the chat. Somebody was wondering who alerted the We Care partners that a family had already provided information into the database, for example, the ASQ. Were parents asked if their child's information was already in the system?
No, if once We Care became available, that it's a database, and in each one of the family files are these forms. So you could go in there and look at the most recent ASQs. So it's all in there. The enrollment form is in there that all programs can access. Might have the financials that is needed for all programs that need that information. So there's in the database alone, it had these files where you could go in, and it's a voluntary for families. So families drove the bus, and families created a family plan. And so they pretty much, developed the goals for their family, and the programs came around to support that family to meet their goals.
Well, we have a little bit of extra time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Barb, about your experience or your message to tribes who are considering participating in something like this?
I would just say, it's almost limitless on what you can do when you have partners at the table, and everybody is sharing resources and helping, doing outreach to families. We know that in just about every community, Head Start serves about 1/3 of the community's children, and another third is in some form of childcare, and another third is not in any kind of program. So when you're trying to reach that third of the community's children that aren't in any kind of service program, you know, you can really identify the need there and get outreach to them, because likely those are the children that are going to show up at kindergarten, maybe not ready, maybe they're not having the wild child checks, maybe they don't have resources, you know, in rural communities. Transportation is huge, access to services is limited, and so you know, the more partners you have out there, especially your bigger partners like housing that houses all of our, you know, majority of our families, are, you know, substance abuse, but programs like that that are serving families with young children, you know, they should be, of course, they need to be a partner of ours. So I think just dream big, really dream big. It's, you know, when you sit down and map out your community, and if your reservation has, you know, 1,000 children under 5, you know, for example, where are they going? You know, who's providing services to them? Are they receiving services? So just sitting down and looking at that can really open your eyes to, you know, what could be. So I just, you know, welcome everybody to really sit down and look at, think about and dream about a tribal early childhood system for your entire service area.
Thanks. I think you all just really accomplished so much, and I think your advice to everyone to think big is really important. And I think you also really showed that you can think big, but you're also doing a bunch of small little actions that all lead to that bigger outcome. And, you know, when you started the TELI, you probably never envisioned that we care system that would be across the whole tribe, but it came as a result of just, you know, you're sitting down and thinking about what can we work on together? What are the barriers, and what are the ways that we can collaborate to improve things for children and families? All right, well, thank you so much, Barb. It was really great to hear your experiences, and thank you for staying on the webinar. I know we're going to have a time for question and answer later in the webinar, so if people want to think of any questions you might have for Barb, you know, please stay on the webinar, and she'll be able to answer some of those in a few minutes. Thank you again. And now I will turn it back to Eva to tell us about the new Tele opportunity that we have.
Okay, thanks, Moshmi. And thanks again to Barb. I really could just sit here and listen to her, and I'm sure she has a lot more details about how that all happened. And on the slide that she gave you her contact information, Barb is a person who really means that. When she says that, she will respond to you and help you. And if there's any way we can help you, obviously we will. And I'll talk about that as we go into this next part. So you've heard kind of about the why, all of these partners that make it better and much easier for families to navigate around their own communities. And you've heard a little bit about what it was. So now we want to tell you a little bit about what's coming. The new Tele opportunity, the kind of how we're going to do this in the next few months. So I'm sure you've recognized that it's an opportunity for all tribal early learning partners, including childcare, Head Start, home visiting, all of those others that were on the poll. And in the last Tele, we were pretty much focused on a Head Start, childcare, and Tribal McVie, although like you heard, there were certainly many more that came to the table. And that's what's exciting about this new opportunity. The funding for this new phase of Tele will be coming from tribal CCDF funding. And that has been increased by supplemental ARPA funds and increased CCDF funds. So we have that funding that will really allow us to move forward. It'll allow us to broaden the reach and really move towards more tribe. I'm going to read these words because someone else wrote them. I didn't, but I think they're so powerful. It'll help to move partners towards tribally driven, culturally grounded systems, that word we've heard, of whole family, holistic, trauma-informed approaches that work across different programs. So, you know, it's taken us a while to get here. And those words, we're seeing them more often now, and they're still as powerful. And that's what drives us with doing things like TELI. So if we can go to the next slide. I want to tell you about, there's two different ways to participate in TELI. So there's the Tele Collaborative, and there will be 8 tribes selected from those who tell us they're interested. And it will be coming from their tribal CCDF funds. And these folks will be interested in partnerships with ACF and being part of a learning community. It's much more extensive. There will be a lot of resources going into this very special group of 8 tribes, and of course, all their partners that come together for this. So it will take a time commitment, but as you heard, it's well worth it. So it's a little bit more intense than the network. The network is open to any tribes with tribal CCDF programs that are interested in using their funds to support TELI, but are less interested in maybe this intensive technical assistance supports and partnership with ACF. I think we will see, well, I don't think, I know we will see a lot of back and forth between the collaborative and the network. Resources that the network develops or hears about, or something like that, will be shared with the collaborative. Some real specific things that the collaborative comes up will be shared with the network. I think the beauty of this is that there's going to be a lot of peer-to-peer help and interest in both of these areas. So if you're not at a place that you feel you can really commit to some very intensive but very productive work, then join the network, and we'll keep you informed about what's going on with all of that. Okay, so the next slide will tell you now what's coming out, what to look for to show us that you're interested in this. So just last week, maybe the week before, the Tele Information Memorandum, the IM, came out. Here is the link if you want to go look at that. And it provides a lot of guidance on how tribal funds can be used. And it includes information about cost allocation. People are always concerned and want to be true to their funding source. And so this IM talks about cost allocation. There could be times where cost allocation was important, and a lot of other times where it's just not an issue. If you're doing a big professional development training and everybody can come, you're not having to worry about paying for one group to come, then you don't have to do cost allocations. But the IM goes into more details on that. So I really encourage you to take a look for that. Then the next slide. This is what to look for coming up. And we don't have an exact date of when this appendix will be released, but we know it's in the works right now. It should be soon. And the difference with this TELI and tying it to CCDF funds is that the CCDF administrators and their tribal leaders will have an opportunity to fill out the appendix that goes along with their preprints, and tell us if you're interested, and give us some information about how you plan to do this. Not extensive, you not have to have a roadmap yet, but this is to let folks know you're interested. It will come out at the same time as the appendix for child count, which some folks are really working on that. The TELI is totally voluntary. It's up to you if you see the beauty and how functional it can be. We hope you'll look for that appendix and fill it out. And those are due July 1st, whereas the CCDF plans will not be out until later and won't have to be in until January. So you have some time between now or shortly, we'll see, to look at that, look for that appendix and think about it and fill it in by July 1. And there will also be a lot of training and technical assistance from the Tribal Capacity Building Center. They are the pros at this. And so watch for that and watch for that to be coming out. Okay, the next slide. These are some things that are in the IM and the appendix that would be allowable for you to use funding for. And I think Barb talking about having a full-time staff or part-time, I may have missed whether it was full-time or part-time, but at least have some person that can devote time to this, that would be allowable. Convening early childhood counselors or advisory groups or joining ones that might already be there. Conduct comprehensive community needs assessment. And of course, we have TA that will help with those. Develop a vision and strategic plan for early childhood system building. You heard about data systems, professional development, developing a community resource directory or a website, which more folks are using now. And then, excuse me, building a coordinated intake system. So there's so many different things that you can do in this and that the funding will allow for. And of course, the exciting one is joint family engagement activities. And I'll just put in a little plug. Barb didn't know I was doing this, but Barb also is doing so much around family voice and family leadership through her organization, which is called Indigenous Visioning. So look that up or give Barb a call. It's what they're doing with this Family Leadership Institute is amazing. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Or maybe that was the last slide. Okay, so I'll turn this over. Let's see, were there questions or that we need to ask now? I know that 477 tribes certainly will be eligible, but I'm going to let somebody answer that because I'm losing my voice. Char.
Sorry, my mute button didn't want to work. So yeah, we don't want you to lose your voice. Thank you so much, Eva, for all of the great information, and Barb, it's inspirational to hear your story. I am Shar Shank from the Tribal Child Care Capacity Building Center, and I am coming from the ancestral lands of the Ute people, and that is in Southwest Colorado. So I'm so happy to be here with you today. What we would like to do is do a quick brainstorming activity. So we really want you to start thinking about all of the possibilities for TELI and what TELI might look like in your community. We have 2 questions for you, and we'll be using a platform called Idea Boards, which allows you to share your ideas in real time and anonymously. So as you can see up in the chat box, my partner Kate has put a link into the Idea Boards. And so all you need to do is click on the link. When you open the link, you'll see 2 questions and a green plus sign button immediately following the questions. You're going to click on the green plus signs to open a sticky note, and you'll be able to write and submit your ideas right there on the sticky note live. So let's try that. Let's all try hopping into the Idea Boards. And all right, with that, I think I am going to pass it back to Moshmi. And thank you all for participating. These are truly inspirational.
Thank you, Shar, and thank you so much, everyone. It really is inspirational to see the kinds of things that you're imagining for your communities, and we would be just so honored to be able to partner with you all in this Tribal Early Learning Initiative to help you reach those goals. So hopefully this inspires you to take advantage of this opportunity. And even if you don't participate in the TELI, hopefully this inspires you to reach out to some new partners in your community and find some ways to work together. Next slide, please. So Eva shared with you information about the different TELI opportunities. So the Tele Collaborative, which is the smaller learning community of up to 8 tribes that will receive intensive technical assistance and supports as part of a peer learning community, or the TELI Network, which is basically available to any tribes that want to submit that TELI appendix and receive approval to use their tribal CCDF funds for TELI purposes. So the ways that you can participate in the TELI, first, tribal CCDF lead agencies can propose to conduct TELI activities as part of the tribal CCDF TELI appendix that Eva shared about, and that's going to be due on July 1st. And then if tribes are interested in participating in the Tele Collaborative, the peer learning network, tribes will have an opportunity to submit a statement of interest in participating to ACF via their tribal CCDF lead agency, again on July 1st. And then we're hoping that we will launch this effort by the end of the fiscal year or early next fiscal year. So next slide, I'll run through the timeline that we're working with right now. So Eva mentioned the TELI Information Memorandum, which the chat, where the link was put into the chat. This was released on April 1st. Hopefully you will take an opportunity to look more closely at that and really get a sense of the types of activities that tribes can engage in with tribal CCDF resources to implement coordination and early childhood system building efforts. And then today we have the TELI webinar. Thank you all for joining us for this. And then later in this month or early next month, we anticipate releasing the TELI appendix, the program instruction, as well as the Tele Collaborative solicitation. And then on July 1st, tribes will have an opportunity to submit both the TELI appendix and the Tele Collaborative statement of interest. We will review the appendices and prepare for the Tele Collaborative over the summer. And then our goal is to launch the Tele Collaborative by the end of September and the Tele Network by October 1st, which will be the start of the next plan period. So next slide. So now we wanted to take a few minutes to answer any questions that you might have. Please feel free to put those in the chat. Or if you have any questions for Barb after her presentation earlier in the webinar. I'm wondering, Barb, one of the things that we talked about was that TELI funds could be used to support family engagement activities across programs. And I'm wondering if you might be able to share a little bit about the parent leadership work that you're doing to maybe give people a sense of the types of parent engagement activities that could be possible.
Sure. So we are working with, Indigenous Visioning is working with 2 tribes in Minnesota, White Earth and Red Lake, to help incorporate Indigenous parent leadership cohort, a cohort of parents And so that, and with that, we will also be looking for the tribal programs to continue the cohort after we get it up and running for that, because the cohorts can happen indefinitely and can go on indefinitely. So the Indigenous cohort, parent leadership cohort, they learn about child development. We build on their advocacy and leadership skills and civic engagement on how to use their voice. I know that this is an effort that, my 30 years working with my tribe and then working, with other tribes, the parent voice is not always at the table. And so while we're designing policies and procedures and setting up programs, and in this case, coordinated programs, it's very helpful to have parent voice at the table, but many parents may not feel like they have a voice. So as part of our work, continued work in tribal communities, we want to support the parent voice and get them to the TELI table, for example. But so we also felt that was complete. We also needed to have an Indigenous cultural foundation. As you know, the boarding school has really took a toll on many of us growing up with that privileged traditional living. And so we had Dr. Anton Troyer help us develop that cultural foundation. And so we, aside from those other areas, we are helping the parents in our cohort understand our cultures, our traditions, our values. And so, and I see in a chat, I apologize. Earlier, I should have said I'm the CEO of Indigenous Visioning. After I left the tribe in 2017, I created this consulting business, and I work with a lot of tribes. I continue my work with states and national partners just to share my story, and wherever I can help people learn from my experiences, I'm always willing to help. So like Eva said, I will call or I will respond. I'm always willing to help my fellow tribal members in their efforts. So.
Thanks, Barb. And there was a question, what is the title of the parenting curriculum? Indigenous Parent Leadership Training, is that right?
Yes, Indigenous Parent Leadership Training, and it's based on evidence-based curriculum of the Parent Leadership Training Institute that was created by the PLTI and Parents That Lead from the East Coast. And we, in order to indigenize that for Indigenous communities, that's where we created the Cultural Foundation. And we thought that was important.
Thank you. So there was a question to clarify how many grantees or programs can be part of the TELI. So again, we have the two opportunities. One is the TELI network, which is available really to any tribe that has a tribal CCDF program, where they can submit that TELI appendix to the upcoming tribal CCDF plan, and that will allow them to indicate to the Office of Child Care that they want to use their funds in this way. And then they'll be able to do that starting with the fiscal year 23 tribal plan period. And then in addition to that, we have the Tele Collaborative, which tribes can indicate by a statement of interest that they want to participate, and we have space for up to 8 tribes to be part of that. Unfortunately, we do have limited technical assistance available, so it will be a smaller group. But as Eva said, we will certainly be sharing resources across all of the across the network and the collaborative to make sure that everyone is benefiting from the learning in both groups. Any other questions? And yes, there were a couple questions about the slides. We will be sending the slides after the webinar, and then this has also been recorded, and we'll be posting the recording later as well for people to access. So hopefully you'll take some time to look at the materials again and really think about whether this could be a good fit for your community. So let's go to the next poll. So we'd love to hear from you now after hearing about the TELI in the past, what's possible with it, about Barb's experiences, about the new opportunity. How are you feeling about the TELI opportunity? Are you interested in being part of the TELI network? Are you interested in that more intensive Tele Collaborative? Do you want to learn more about both? Or are you unsure about kind of how you're feeling about things? I'd love to hear kind of temperature check of where you are right now. Why don't we go ahead and look at the results? Still only seeing the poll. Okay, here's the results. So it sounds like there's many folks who are really interested in learning more about both the TELI network and the Tele Collaborative, and many of you who are still a little bit unsure. It sounds like there's a few of you who know already that you're interested in the Tele Collaborative opportunity, and more of you that know that the TELI network might be a good fit for you. So we're really excited to see this interest and to continue to share information, and you can be on the lookout for the TELI appendix and the TELI solicitation, Tele Collaborative solicitation, and take another close look at that TELI Information Memorandum to kind of continue to learn more about these opportunities. So there is a question in the chat about 477 tribes. So yes, 477 tribes are certainly eligible to participate in the TELI. They can all submit the TELI appendix similar to the way they submit the tribal CCDF child count. And then they're, of course, able to submit the Tele Collaborative statement of interest if they're interested. We did have some 477 tribes participate in our last cohorts of TELI, and they were certainly able to benefit a lot from the experience. All right, so we go to the next slide, please. So just wanted to thank you all for being with us today. We're really excited to share about this opportunity. We've been working on it for a while and really thinking about how to bring this opportunity to tribal early childhood programs. We had such a lot of success with the first couple cohorts of TELI back in the Obama administration, and are just really excited about the opportunity to work with more of you and to really broaden the reach of this initiative and really support tribes to coordinate across your early childhood programs and really move toward the beautiful vision that you shared with us today for what early childhood could look like in your communities and what children's experience could be moving forward. So we hope that you will consider being part of this, and please provide feedback on this webinar. I think the link to the evaluation should be in the chat. I don't see it there right at the second, but we'll put that in. So please, we'd love to receive any feedback from you about this webinar. And next slide. So I just wanted to mention we do have a website, and on the website is a report called the Tribal Early Learning Initiative Collaborative Success, which is about the first cohort of TELI, which included the White Earth Nation, as you heard from Barb today, and really, I think, gives a good sense of what this type of opportunity can be for tribes and what's possible, and how it felt for the communities to be part of this effort and what they gained from it. So I think it's a great place to learn more and really think about whether this might be a good fit for your community. Next slide. So just wanted to thank you all again for being with us. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. Please reach out if you have questions, or to your Tribal Child Care Capacity Building Center team, or to Eva. I don't know, Eva, do you want to put your email in the chat in case people would like to reach out to you?
And please do, we'd love to hear from you. We really would, honest. We mean it.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. I'm sure you can tell from hearing from our leadership and hearing from Barb, and then just really look forward to working with all of you on this. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye.